Hi, everybody. It's Jay, and today we're trying something a little bit new. We wanted to give you a sneak preview of Jessie Gussman's latest audiobook, Heartland Faith. Jessie came up with a cool idea that rather than pulling a recorded section from the audiobook for a sample for you, it might be cool to just do a live reading of a scene from the book. So that's what we're going to do today. Before I do, though, I just wanted to ask, please hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't, give us a thumbs up if you like this, and hit that bell notification so you can be notified whenever we release a new video. Thanks. Hope you enjoy it. Preston stood at the back of the sanctuary, watching. After the service was over, people had filed out. Since there was not going to be a graveside service, many of them had gone to speak with Carmen at the front again. She had already spent 4 hours on her feet. The funeral had been another hour, and now she was standing again. If she were his, he would have stepped in 3 hours ago, at least. She needed a break, a drink, someone to hold her and make her rest. Someone to find out what was really going on in her head. She was playing a part, he was sure of it. She didn't seem to be completely in the present, like she was just putting in time until she could leave. Was she really grieving? Preston supposed that when you spent as many years with someone as what she had with her husband, their death had to leave one with some kind of feelings. He supposed his thoughts just showed that he was jealous. Jealous that she had been with someone else. Jealous it wasn't him. Jealous she might be feeling something for Michael even now. After all, she'd chosen Michael over Preston all those years ago anyway. Somehow it had hurt worse than anything, but it hadn't made him stop loving her. It seemed like nothing could do that. Even the thought of them together. The thought of her not wanting him now. When you fall hard. The voice came from beside him. Preston didn't need to turn his head to know it was Levi, his brother. His words were true. That seemed to be true for all the men in their family. They all fell hard. Levi and him were the only ones that were left unmarried. All the other marriages were happy, although Braxton's had started out a little rocky. They were together now, though, and expecting their third child. Braxton and his family had been here, but with a nod in Preston's direction, he had left with his wife and kids. "I never thought it was that obvious," he said, his arms crossed over his chest, shoulders leaning against the wall. He didn't look at his brother, didn't want to see the smirk. Normally, Preston walked around trying to see who he could help. If he wasn't going to be married, wasn't going to have a family of his own, he figured he could dedicate his life to service to others. But today, he didn't feel like helping anyone. He felt angry for some reason. Probably because he had watched the woman he loved grieve the man she'd chosen over him. As much as he wanted to help her, as much as he wanted to be beside her, bolstering her, giving her his strength, giving her everything that she needed, she hadn't asked for it, and it wasn't his place anyway. He couldn't do anything but stand back here and wish. "That's funny, because the rest of the town would say it's never been anything but obvious." Levi imitated Preston's stance along the wall, and they stood shoulder to shoulder, facing the front, talking out of the corners of their mouths at each other, the chairs in front of them already emptied out. "As obvious as your lifetime crush on a certain librarian," Preston said, something he normally might not harass his brother about. But he wasn't feeling particularly charitable today, and actually felt rather impatient, unkind even, because it had been obvious to him since about 3rd grade that Levi was stuck on Aaron Carver, and he'd never gotten himself unstuck. "I guess if anybody would figure that out, it'd be you. I can't believe you haven't set us up by now." Sometimes maybe things just need to work themselves out without me, Preston said, but he didn't really mean it. He just hadn't figured out a good way to get them together. Although he'd been working on it. Actually, I'm working on something right now. Don't bother. She's not interested. And I'm not right for her anyway. She needs someone a little more intellectual than what I am. You're perfect for her. Why are you letting her stand up there by herself? Levi completely changed the subject, nodding at Carmen in the front of the church. My place isn't beside her right now. So? That's where you want to be, and if you don't make a move, someone else will. Someone like Michael. And you'll end up spending another 15 years standing in the back, glowering and wishing you were beside her, jealous of the man that is. Not jealous, Preston denied, even though he knew it was true. You are. You're green. Anyone can see it. Preston jerked his head toward Levi, concerned. He definitely didn't want the town gossiping about Carmen. That's the last thing she needed. To have everyone saying she had a jealous lover who was upset she was grieving her husband. He pushed off the wall, ready to leave immediately. Anything to protect her from that. Relax. No one knows. Actually, that's not true. Everyone knows about you and her, but no one thinks that you're jealous. They just think that you care about her and want to help her any way you can. Well then, they think right. Preston could admit that much. It wasn't hard to admit that he wanted to be a caring person. But jealous? That was a completely different story. Seriously, go to her. She wants you just as much as you want her. Don't screw this up a second time. Second time? Preston turned his head, his eyes narrowed. He hadn't screwed anything up. Carmen was the one who married someone else. Yeah, this time. You sit around watching her, doing all these nice things for her or for the people around her, and she never knows how you feel. You don't pursue her, chase her. You let her get away. She thinks she's just another one of your good causes, just like everyone else. How is she supposed to know she's special if you don't tell her? How is she supposed to feel cherished if you treat everyone else the same exact way you treat her? Maybe, did you ever consider that she went to Michael to make you jealous? But instead of making you jealous, it just made you let her go. You didn't fight for her, didn't try to get her back, didn't try to win her, didn't do anything. You just threw your hands up and gave her up. No, Preston had never considered that before. He just figured that Michael was the better man, at least in Carmen's eyes. He hadn't considered that Carmen didn't realize that he thought she was special, didn't realize how badly he wanted to cherish her, didn't know that she was different than everyone else, a lot different. Did he seriously treat her the same way as he treated other women? He didn't want to think it was true, but maybe Levi had some great points. Now is not the time. I can hardly pursue her at her husband's funeral. He's not even buried yet. His body was just leaving the church. It was barely cold. Don't think she's grieving. That would be a joke. Levi spit the words out, his contempt for Michael and the way he treated his wife and family obvious. Well, maybe you and I know that, and the town probably knows it as well, but there are just some things that a person can't do, and hanging out with a future love interest at your husband's funeral is one of those things. It's distasteful. Don't be so 18th century. No one has any taste anymore, Levi said, sarcasm heavy in his voice. Preston granted a laugh. That was true. At least not 18th century taste. I don't care how acceptable it is, I'm not doing it. You can't expect her to know that she's special to you, that you want her, if all you ever do is stand in the back corner and stare at her." Levi sounded frustrated with his brother, and Preston understood why. He supposed he was being stubborn, but he wasn't going to walk up in front of all those people, all the mourners who were expecting Carmen to act a certain way, and put himself out there, risking rejection that she felt the same way that everyone else did. A funeral was no place for a man to stake his claim. Talk about 18th century. "Thanks for your advice. I'll be in touch about your library friend." Preston gave his brother a little smirk, while Levi just rolled his eyes.